This is Optimal Living Daily, episode 720. Most generous thing I've heard in a long time by Ramit Sethi of I'llTeachYouToBeRich.com. And I'm Justin Malik, your personal narrator, reading to you every day just like an audiobook, but free of charge. And that's thanks to FreshBooks for sponsoring this episode. FreshBooks, the cloud accounting company, lets you invoice people. You can also track all of your expenses and more. And you can try out all of their features for free for a month without entering a credit card. Just come by freshbooks.com/living and enter Optimal Living Daily in the How'd You Hear About Us section. For now, let's get right to it and continue optimizing your life. Most generous thing I've heard in a long time by Ramit Sethi of I'llTeachYouToBeRich.com. One of my favorite stories about generosity comes from Steve Wynn, the hotelier, in an article from the New Yorker. Steve decided to sell a painting he'd acquired, a Picasso, for $139 million. Yes, $139 million for a painting, the highest known price ever paid for a work of art. From the New Yorker, quote, "That weekend, Wynn had some friends visiting from New York. They were staying, as they often do, at his hotel and casino, the Wynn Las Vegas. As they had dinner together on Friday night, Wynn told them about the sale. The girl said, 'We've got to see it tomorrow,' Wynn recalled last week. So I said, 'I'll be working tomorrow, just come on up to the office.' The guests came at 5:30 and Wynn ushered them in. On the wall to his left and right were several paintings, including a Matisse, a Renoir, and La Rêve. The other three walls were glass, looking out onto an enclosed garden. He began to tell the story of the Picasso's provenance. As he talked, he had his back to the picture. He was wearing jeans and a golf shirt. Wynn suffers from an eye disease, retinitis pigmentosa, which affects his peripheral vision and therefore occasionally his interaction with proximate objects. And without realizing it, he backed up a step or two as he talked. So then I made a gesture with my right hand, Wynn said, and my right elbow hit the picture. It punctured the picture. There was a distinct ripping sound. Wynn turned around and saw on Marie-Therese Walter's left forearm in the lower right quadrant of the painting a slight puncture, a 2-inch tear. We all just stopped. I said, 'I can't believe I just did that. Oh man.' Wynn turned around again. He put his pinky in the hole and observed that a flap of canvas had been pushed back. He told his guests, 'Well, I'm glad I did it and not you.' Unquote. This is one of the most striking and graceful things I've ever heard someone say. Instead of cursing or getting mad, he simply said, 'I'm glad I did it and not you.' In other words, better he did it than you, at least he can afford it. When I think about a rich life, I don't just think about wearing a beautiful suit or having the nicest apartment. I think about being generous with my time and money. In fact, sometimes a little helping hand can go further than a $10,000 check. Steve Wynn's comment taught me a lot about generosity. As a young guy, I didn't really get generosity. I thought about paying my fair share, but I didn't make generosity one of my core values like it is now. For example, I know a lot of young guys who rant about having to pay for dates because it's not quote-unquote equal. They are correct, it's not equal, and yet life isn't fair. There's nothing more unattractive than a cheap man. I remember the small things that taught me about being generous. I remember back when I was a student asking business people and CEOs to meet me for lunch. They always paid, 100% of the time. Even though I was the one asking them, they took pity on a college kid and paid. I'll never forget that. Whenever I meet with a young college kid, I always pay. I remember getting a small gift, just a simple handwritten card from someone I'd helped with some business stuff. I will always remember it. I also remember helping someone get a job in New York City and only finding out about it months later from someone else. When she emailed me again asking for another favor, I ignored her. And I remember the joy of sending people small gifts and seeing their reaction. Sometimes it's a book I find on Amazon or a photo of a funny sign on the subway. It's such a gift for people to know you're thinking of them. Ironically, the more generous I started to become, the more successful I became. Sometimes the connection is obvious. I help someone out, they make an introduction, and suddenly I get invited on a national TV show. This happened. Other times, generosity comes back in unexpected ways. A couple years ago, I was at a club with friends and my jacket vanished, a $1,000 jacket. My friend helped me look for it, and I felt that horrible sinking in the pit of my stomach when it was nowhere around our table. Then I shrugged and said, "Better me than someone else." My friend couldn't believe it. "It doesn't bother you?" Of course it bothered me, but I know I can get another one. The ability to be calm at something that would have been financially overwhelming a few years ago is something I'm very grateful for. Generosity now means that I send gifts to my friends for no good reason. I love to pick up the check. I did this before I had money, and I keep doing it now. Think about the ways you can be generous. It doesn't have to be expensive. Have you seen something on the street that reminds you of your friend? Why not send the pic in a text and say, "Thinking of you"? If you see a book your mom would like, send it to her and write "I love you" on the cover page. What a treat for her to receive. I once couldn't figure out how to lace my shoelaces in a certain way, so I asked my dad. He burst out laughing, then showed me. The next time I laced them, I sent him a picture and thanked him. Imagine how it feels to get that from your son. Generosity also comes from connecting people together. One of my friends, Nick, invites me to his house for events with other interesting people. Another friend gave me a tip when I wrote for the New York Times: link to as many friends as you can. Spread the love. I've said over and over that money is only a small part of a rich life. I really mean it. I don't just want you to think about how to get the biggest raise or start the most profitable business. I can show you all of that, but then what? I went from a guy focused entirely on achievement and numbers to thinking about the softer side of what I wanted my core values to be, and generosity is one of the ones I'm most proud of. I don't have anything to sell you. I don't have a call to action. I just want you to think about what your friends would say about you. Would generous be in their top 3 words? Do you want it to be? Think about it. If you want to share your thoughts, email me. I'll keep them private between you and me. Thanks for listening, and here's to a rich life. Ramit. You just listened to the post titled "Most Generous Thing I've Heard in a Long Time" by Ramit Sethi of I'llTeachYouToBeRich.com. And big thanks again to my sponsor for today's episode, FreshBooks. I use FreshBooks. My favorite tool of theirs is expense tracking because that's something I've been doing for over 7 years for personal expenses, and their solution is much, much better than mine. What I like about it is how easy it is to use. It's very intuitive. The FreshBooks app lets you enter expenses on the go and take pictures of your receipts so you don't have to worry about carrying and losing them. It's a great way to keep organized. And then it connects to your account on the web. So if you're at home, you can enter through a computer too. There are also reports, and it's all super easy to categorize your transactions and very intuitive. You can figure it all out without instructions. And that's just one tool that FreshBooks offers. Try all of their tools for free for a month without entering a credit card, so no worries there. Just come by freshbooks.com/living to try it out. And when they ask you how'd you hear about us, enter in Optimal Living Daily. That will do it for today. Thank you for listening all the way through, and I'll see you in the Friday show tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.
Hey, this is Dan from the Optimal Finance Daily podcast, which is a lot like this show, except more focused on personal finance. Justin handpicks the best posts he can find from blogs and authors like Ramit Sethi, Mr. Money Mustache, and more, and I read them to you 5 days a week. So if you enjoy this podcast, come on over and subscribe to Optimal Finance Daily too. And together, we'll optimize your financial life.
You've been listening to Optimal Living Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode, and head to oldpodcast.com, that's OLDpodcast.com, for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.